Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at ThunderWizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at ThunderWizard.com. Get ready, because here I come. Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and today we are going to take a look at the biblical myth of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. And my question for you is, was the serpent and or Lucifer a Naga extraterrestrial coming to give human beings the knowledge of their divinity? So let's first take a look at the biblical story. And in case you don't know your history, the Hebrew Old Testament, which is the basis of all three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Abrahamic Old Testament was written in 385 BC, I believe. That's when it was written down. Before that time, in case you didn't know this, and if you want to do your research, you will find out this is true. The Jewish people, the children of Israel, had already separated. They'd become Judea and then Israel. The Judeans, before 385 BC, get ready, they were polytheists. They weren't monotheists. They believed in a sky father and an earth mother, and they had deities on their mantelpiece, and they worshipped multiple deities, just like every other people around them. You don't believe me? Look into the archaeology. Just before the Babylonian captivity, which is a real thing, where the Judean elite and the priestly class refused to pay taxes, tribute to the Babylonians who had conquered them. The Babylonians came, and as a result of their disobedience, flattened the temple, the flame to Jehovah, which was their national god. It wasn't the only god. He was just one of many gods that they worshiped traditionally. But once that flame was put out, they grabbed all of the elite, took them off into servitude for 70 years or something like that. And when they came back, they had this new religion that they had written down in what you know of as the Old Testament. And in that Old Testament, there is this creation story. And in this creation story, we have the myth of the Garden of Eden. And you've heard it many times, the Garden of Eden. Jehovah says to Adam and Eve, and says, you are free to eat of any fruit that you want, just do not eat of the tree of knowledge. If you eat from that tree, he will be very angry. He goes off to do something else. We don't know why. The ever-present God somehow disappears and can't see what's going on. But he goes off and does something else. And then a serpent being comes to Eve and says to her, did Jehovah really say not to eat of the fruit of knowledge? Because if you eat of the fruit of knowledge, you will become like God. You will know all things. And Eve says, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would God do that? And she convinces her counterpart, Adam, and I can't forget who ate first or whatever, but they ended up both eating of the fruit of the knowledge, and they became full of shame because they became aware that they were naked. And then Jehovah returns, and he, of course, knows that they've done something, and when they admit that they ate of the tree of knowledge, he banishes them from perfection and curses them in all kinds of ways, and all humans from there on are cursed as well. And he curses the serpent to crawl on his belly, so it makes you think maybe he had legs and arms or something before that. And that is why things are so horrible. because Adam and Eve decided that they wanted to be like God, and they listened to some serpent being that told them they could be like God if they just partook of this fruit, whatever that means. So you've been told that. I grew up with that. You've been programmed to believe that human beings are unlovable, that they are evil, that they are sinful. You are told from the moment that you are born, God hates you and wants to throw you in eternal punishment unless you are become part of the chosen people who know the correct religion and worship his perfect son, etc., etc., etc. You know all about that. But what if that's not how things went? But that this mythology, which was written down in 538 BC, and before that time, this was not the religion of the Judeans, nor was it the religion of the world. What if there was something that happened that was similar to that? So here's the thing about the Bible. The Bible actually is not very clear about things. It changes its mind about what things are as time goes on. Just to give you an example, the beginning, the Genesis story, is actually taken from pre-Judean, pre-Jehovah religion. And it still has the original language where it says, where you read it says, and God said, let us go down, to create the world. But actually, the actual language is, it says, and it's still in there, it's still in the original Hebrew, it says, the council of gods, plural, said to themselves, let us go down. So it starts off as a polytheist writing, and then for some reason they change their mind. I've got all thoughts about that, but that's still in there, showing you that the Hebrews were actually polytheists. They weren't monotheists. Now, if you ask a rabbi or a priest or a pastor why it says, the gods said, let us go down, they will give you such incredibly over-intellectualized reasons because they don't have an answer for that. It'll make such nonsense that you won't be able. They will say something to the effect of, "Oh, the meaning of it is beyond our understanding." It's because they don't have a clue. They don't know why it says that. So, so what if there really was a serpent being or serpent beings who gave human beings the light of the knowledge of their divinity? According to the Vedic tradition, there is a set of, they're not gods and they're not humans, they're not spirits. They're in this range of very powerful semi-divine beings, and they're called Nagas. In fact, Naga and the word snake is the exact same word. It's an Indo-European word. Naga, snake, Naga. It's the same word. So Naga does mean snake, means serpent. But according to the Hindus, these divine beings, the Nagas, they are not part of our dimension. And according to some Vedics, they will tell you, I learned this just recently from one of my viewers who told me that according to Vedics, the Nagas are actually extraterrestrials. They're extraterrestrials who came to Earth and taught human beings Kundalini yoga. So, in other words, they revealed to humans that they have within them this power called Kundalini. Now, if you go to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge at thunderwizard.com, I actually teach you all three of the known energies that are used by traditions that go back into prehistory. One of them is Kundalini, which is the energy that rises up the spine, that opens up the chakras, and is specifically designed to give human beings their psychological awareness of their divinity. That is the point of Kundalini. The other energy is Chi or Prana or Orgone, life force energy. And this has to do with the energy that's ambient all around in all things. And you can bring this energy into your body, you can increase it, you can generate it, and it brings health and power and all kinds of wonderful, beautiful things. And then there's a third power, which has been almost completely forgotten. I don't know anybody else who's teaching it publicly other than myself. And this is the lightning energy that surrounds the heart. It's called the heart mind. In the Taoist tradition, it's called the Shin. There are a few internal martial artists and Taoist mystics who are aware of it, but very few know how to flip it on, to have it go from being a dormant, self-contained energy into being released in the body. And when you have all three of these energies, you have a tremendous amount of power, and you can learn about that here at thunderwizard.com. Warrior 90-Day Challenge, Lightning Qigong. So the Nagas specifically, according to people who I'm listening to now, are saying that they brought this light of knowledge of Kundalini awareness. Now that's important. Hold on to that. I'm going to tell you why that's so important in a little bit. Now let's get to who is this devil? You've heard of the being called the devil. Now the serpent and Lucifer and Satan. These are three completely different names for supposedly the same being. Now remember what I said earlier is that the ancient Hebrew text disagrees with itself all over the place, as does the New Testament. I mean, it contradicts itself backwards and forwards in so many different ways. I know because I actually went to Bible college. I was going to go to seminary. I read the New Testament in the original Koine Greek. I was very well versed in the Bible. I probably know it better than just about anybody listening, because that's what I was going to be. I was going to be a Christian pastor and evangelist. So what I'm telling you isn't just rumor. I know this for a fact, that the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, are filled with complete, total, contradictory inaccuracies in and of itself. It completely disagrees with itself. And this being, this evil being, which you know of as the devil, is one of these complete inconsistencies. So the first one is, in the beginning, we're not told that there's a devil. We're not told that there's a Lucifer. We're not told that there's a Satan. We are told that there is a serpent. And if you read the myth, if you're not emotionally attached to the character of Jehovah, like imagine if you've never heard of God or any of that, Christian religion stuff. If you were just given that myth and you were to read it, you would go, well, that Jehovah guy doesn't sound very nice. I mean, he's really egotistical. He says, thou shalt have no other gods but me. He gets really bent out of shape if you don't address him exactly the way he wants. He says he wants all the glory for himself and that man is his servant. And he says that man is made in his own image, and then he casts him out for wanting to know about himself more. He deliberately, messes with him and says, here's this tree, the most valuable tree with this wonderful fruit, which is the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And I don't want you to eat that, but I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to leave now, so you'll be left on your own and tempted by it. You're not going to be able to think about anything else. If I had not even mentioned it, there are so many other fruit trees here, you probably wouldn't have even known it existed. You would have been happy with all of the other fruit. But I, for some reason, have to tell you about the one tree of millions of trees in the garden, the one that you can't eat from, and now I'm going to go leave. All right? So don't eat it. And of course, now the only thing they can think of is that one tree. Why the hell can't we eat of that? It must be really good. And then along comes this being who says what you and I would say, common sense, and says, well, I don't understand. So there's this tree over here which has ultimate knowledge. And God, who is the ultimate being in the universe, who created you, who supposedly loves you, he won't let you eat that. It makes you wonder, would a loving God really say that to you? Would the loving God, because if what you're saying is true, that fruit will give you awareness so that you will be like God. Why wouldn't a father want his children to be like him? Doesn't make any sense. So bear in mind, read the myth again as though you weren't emotionally attached either by fear or by devotion to Jehovah or God. If you just read it for the first time, you would completely agree with the snake. You'd be like, yeah, why the heck? Why the heck not? Why is he so weak that he either can't get rid of the tree so that you won't be tempted, and that he has to tell you about it and make you crazy? None of it makes any sense. Well, it does if you listen to what I'm about to tell you. So, remember that the Nagas are supposedly extraterrestrial, according to many Vedics. Maybe if I haven't said it, let me repeat myself. If I've already said it, let me repeat myself. According to many Vedics, the Nagas are serpent beings that are highly advanced beings of light that live in another dimension, that whose essence is that of a serpent, but they can shape-shift, look like humans. And these beings came to Earth and they taught human beings Kundalini Yoga, the ability to know psychologically the light of your awareness, your divine awareness. And so if we look at that compared to the biblical myth, according to what I was told, is that they were driven off the planet by humans. Humans started attacking them. And we can only guess why. If we look at the biblical myth, it makes sense, because if the Nagas are bringing the light of self-awareness to all people through this practice of Kundalini Yoga, which anybody can do, that means the people who are in control, who operate from ego, insecurity, narcissism, fear, greed, these people will be out of a job. Because if you become aware of your own divinity, they can't control you. So it makes perfect sense to me that if the Nagas came to Earth teaching Kundalini Yoga, the ability to know and awaken your Kundalini and become self-aware, self-sufficient, then it would make sense that those who operated from ego, thou shalt have no other God before me, then they're going to drive out those highly advanced spiritual beings. So that's what as I understand it, the Nagas were driven out and they went back to their home planet. And then we had the Dark Ages came upon us, and we've been living in that ever since. This idea that we have to go to a job 8 hours a day, that we have to pay taxes to a government that doesn't necessarily do what's in our best interest. You have banks, you have armies, you have a lot of you have prejudice, and you have violence and wars and money and profit and ego and fame and all that. That is a very Jehovah concept, because the same person who would say to his own children, "You are here to glorify me. I created you for my own pleasure and my glory. Bow down to me and worship me. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, and you cannot know the forbidden knowledge that will make you equal with me." That is the mindset of the banker, of the politician, of the general, of the mogul, of the emperor, of people who want money and power. That is their mindset. It's the narcissistic mindset. In short, Jehovah is a narcissist, clearly. So what would they do? They're going to call these evil, or they're going to call these serpent beings evil, tempters. They lie to you. And the thing about narcissists is they do this thing called psychological projection, which basically they say you or other people are doing the very same thing that they're doing. So you know exactly what a narcissist is thinking or doing because you listen to what he accuses other people of doing. So when Jehovah accuses the serpent of tempting you and lying to you, that's exactly what Jehovah's doing. He's tempting you, he's lying to you, he does not want you to be free. All right, so let's take a look at those three distinct beings that are supposedly the devil, which when you read and you know the whole text, you find out that there is no one devil. There's three, at least three different beings that are lumped into this category, and they're completely different. So the first one is the serpent. Serpent is not associated with Satan or the devil. He's a serpent. And he brings forbidden knowledge. He brings knowledge. He doesn't bring lies. He brings knowledge of the truth. Let's be clear. God, Jehovah, punishes Adam and Eve because they know the truth. It says that they have shame because they know that they're naked. Which, I mean, does that really mean anything? That's ridiculous. What they have awareness of is their true nature. And Jehovah wants to shame you out of that. So he makes it about being dirty and, being like, not dirty, but like there's this sexuality and it's like wrong that you're naked. Are you touching yourself? He puts this shame, about it. But it's about self-awareness. If you're aware that you're naked, it means you're aware of yourself. You're not hidden from yourself anymore. There's no clothing separating you from your essence. Oh my God, you're naked. You have no ego to protect you. You see yourself for who you are, and you realize everything else sees you for who you are. This was the gift of the serpent, the wise serpent who brings wisdom and forbidden knowledge. He's not evil. There's nothing in that. When you read that, there's nothing about it that makes him evil. He's not lying. He doesn't lie to Adam and Eve. He tells them the truth. He gives them self-awareness. Then there is Satan. Now, Satan, I believe, translates as the accuser. And that again sounds like a narcissist. As I said, narcissists, they have this thing called psychological projection, where they project onto you. They accuse you of doing what they themselves are doing. If they're lying to you, for instance, let me give you an example. This happens a lot. People who are in exclusive relationships who cheat, these are the people. Like if you're with somebody who's constantly checking your phone, I need to see your phone. Who are you talking to? They go in and they hack your email. These are people that are jealous. They don't trust you. because it's very possible, not in every case, but in many cases, it's very possible that they themselves are cheating. And the guilt that they have about cheating on you is intolerable, so instead they project it onto you and they think you're out to cheat on them. Narcissists are like this. They can have as many partners as they want, but if you can only be with them and nobody else. So again, this is projection. So Satan is the accuser, which is again a projection. So what it means is that Jehovah himself is all of those things that he accuses Satan of being. The liar, the deceiver, the consumer of your soul, wants to throw you in hell. I mean, isn't it interesting that Satan wants to bring people to hell, and yet what is it that God does when you don't accept Jesus? He sends you to hell. He accuses Satan of doing the very thing he himself actually does, according to the biblical tradition. I heard another definition of Satan, which I really liked, and I don't know how true it is, but I read somewhere that the word shaitan also means dual-minded. What's interesting about that, it means somebody who's unconscious. It means somebody who thinks that they're doing the right thing, that they're living a good life, that they're loving and kind and generous, when in reality, they're unconsciously selfish, destructive, deceptive, hurtful. But they're unaware. In other words, there's two people in there. There's a bad person and there's a superficial good person. The Hopis have the same understanding of the people who the Zunis call the dark force people, who are bringing the world and seeking to bring the world into destruction with their narcissistic controlling ways, their destructive ways. And these people are called dual-hearted. They don't have one true heart, they have two. So here somebody calls, I believe the person who gave me this was coming from the Islamic tradition, but they said that shaitan meant somebody who has two minds about things. Contradictory split personality. There's a third being in the Bible associated with the devil, and that is Lucifer. But here's the thing. The name Lucifer means bringer of light. I'm sorry? So how could somebody who brings light be deceiving you? By definition, to deceive somebody is to hide things from you, to keep the truth from being revealed. So it's literally impossible for somebody to be a bringer of light and at the same time be the father of lies and deception. It's not possible. At that point, the name would change. But if we're talking about a being, a spiritual being in the Abrahamic mythology, the angels, because he's supposedly a fallen angel, and that right there brings the possibility of extraterrestrials, because where do they come from? They come from the sky. So could it be Lucifer as a fallen angel, as an extraterrestrial being of light? Could the serpent have been an extraterrestrial who brought the light of knowledge, of self-awareness with this technique of Kundalini Yoga that was so threatening to the people in power that they attacked them and drove them off the planet? Now, bringing into my personal experience, I myself have recently become very interested in extraterrestrial civilizations. I have been practicing what's called CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. You can look it up. By the way, somebody left a question on my channel asking CE5? Question mark. If literally the amount of effort you put to write that question in the comment, if you had just simply put it into your search bar at the top of your internet page, you would have found out. So the amount of effort it took to write the question, you could have Googled it. So please do. Google CE5 protocols, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It is human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials that is done solely with the powers of meditation. I've become very interested in that, and I've done it a few times myself with incredible success. I've proven it to myself physically. I've got it on video. You can search my channel for it. I no longer need to see flashing lights in the sky or have crazy things happen. I've already proven that this is a real thing. So when somebody says to me, I myself, by the way, used to be a Kundalini yoga instructor. So I'm very familiar with the feeling of Kundalini in the body and what it does and all of that. So when I hear from somebody from that civilization tell me that the Vedics believe that Nagas, or serpent beings, came to Earth and gave humans the light of self-awareness through the techniques of Kundalini yoga. And as a result of that, it was so frightening and threatening to the powers that be that they were driven off the planet. I now completely believe it literally. It's not, I don't see it as being any kind of symbolic thing anymore whatsoever. So now I look at the biblical tradition, and if you've watched my channel, you know, you can probably guess already my views on Jehovah. I don't believe Jehovah is the creator God. I believe Jehovah is nothing more than the human ego, and people are worshiping their own egos, which is exactly what narcissists do. If you know anything about narcissistic personality disorder, which I'm not accusing anybody here of being, but we have been indoctrinated by a culture that has been created by a narcissistic religion where one worships their own ego. And this is what narcissistic personality disordered people do. They are so insecure, they have such a horrible black hole inside of them. They hate themselves so much, they can't tolerate that, so they create a fantasy where they are all-knowing, all-perfect, and everybody worships them. And if you don't worship them, what does the narcissist do? He punishes you in some way. He's cruel, destructive, abusive, which is exactly what Jehovah does. He does it to his own children who seek out to become self-aware. He kicks them out of the Garden of Eden. He curses them. And you, being the offspring of those first two, having done nothing except being born, having committed no sin, from the moment that you are born, you are evil and worthy of destruction. Who else but a narcissist would treat their children that way? So again, this is a projection. So narcissistic people, after the Judean people who were polytheists like everybody else around them, they worshiped the sky, the moon, the sun, the stars, the earth, and all of the spirits that every other indigenous culture's done since the beginning of human shamanism. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, in 853 BC, I think, 385 BC, I can't remember which. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, these guys come back from the elites, the people who are in control, and the priestly class, the people who have all the political control in Judea, come back, and this time they have a new religion where they write a mythology where this guy Moses wipes out the Canaanites. And if you know anything about not only linguistically, but historically and archaeologically, the children of Israel are the Canaanites. So you have these narcissistic people who are coming back, wiping out their own history. And in their history, they have somebody destroying themselves, the Canaanites. The Canaanites worshiped many gods. They were trying to get rid of their own polytheist history so that the people in control could control Judea. And they did that through religion. That's why Jehovah didn't want anybody worshiping any other gods and just worshiping the God of Israel, which is Jehovah. So I'm also sharing this because my experience with CE5 is that so far, except in one instance, the beings of light, which are in fact extraterrestrials. By the way, everything you've heard about alien abductions and reptilians and all of that, that's actually human created. That's military black ops. All of those alien abductions are staged. They're very real things, but they're staged by black ops military. And it's psychological as warfare as well as medical experimentation. My experience with extraterrestrials is that in order for them to get here, they are beings of light that are transdimensional, that have the ability to travel millions of light years in the blink of an eye, which is physically impossible, which means that they are transdimensional beings that are at a higher level of energy and spiritual awareness. That's really where their power comes from. My experience of them every single time when they've done energy work on me is that it's always been Kundalini. It's had that same vibration that Kundalini has. So that tells me that the information I got from my viewer, who tells me from his connection to the Vedic civilization, that the Vedics say that the Nagas were bringers of light who brought the knowledge of Kundalini Yoga, and it was so threatening they were attacked and driven off the planet. If you take that same real historical scenario and you mythologize it, what do you have? You have Jehovah in the Garden of Eden, and you have the serpent who brings forbidden wisdom. And then as time goes on, that turns into the accuser, the liar, and then it turns into, Satan. And once again, we still have that problem of Lucifer, the bringer of light, who's a fallen angel. Well, which one is it? He's a fallen angel, but he brings light. How can he be a light bringer and at the same time be this evil, lying, destructive, horrific being? By the way, in the Abrahamic tradition, angels do not have any free will. So even by that standard, it's impossible for Lucifer to be God's right-hand angel to then decide and do his own thing. Because it's impossible for an Abrahamic angel to have free will. That's what separates angels from human beings in that Hebrew cosmology. So even the idea that Lucifer is a fallen angel who rebels against God doesn't even fit within Judaism's own understanding of the universe. So once again, we've got this conflict. It's more likely that there was a being that brought light, and it was so threatening that it was seen as a rebellion against the powers that be, which are human, narcissistic controllers of the world. There you go. Those are my thoughts about that. Today is July 2nd, and I am going to be doing another CE5. I believe I am going to live stream my CE5 experience, which means that we can do a meditation together and we can be online together, and who knows what will happen. We'll talk about that then. In any case, there you go. So, is the serpent in the Garden of Eden the evil devil deceiver, or is it in fact a serpentine being of light bringing you knowledge that pushes you into 5D? I will let you meditate on that. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you very soon. Take care.